Hey, and there we are. Hello, folks. So thank you for waiting 5 minutes. It is actually about 5 minutes past 8. So
Yes.
welcome those who are watching to the Standing with Stones open house with myself, Michael Bott,
And
and
me, Rupert Soskin.
him,
Hello.
Rupert Soskin, who's gone a bit blurry, I'm afraid to say.
Oh,
Your
am
internet
I?
was doing so well a moment ago, but it's
Wow.
gone a bit strange. So, yeah, welcome to you all. Not many of you so far, but those of you who are. Oh, Margaret Bailey says hi.
Hi, Margaret.
Um, yeah, 2 minutes to go. Well, like 2 minutes. She's just gone to open a bottle of wine, as Margaret, and quite right
She was.
too. So, apart from Margaret, who else is watching? Please let us know. Just say
Yes,
hello.
do. Say hi.
Give us a thumbs up, what have you, in the comments, and we should be glad to proceed. So, what have we got to go through tonight? What points of
Well, I
interest?
think,
I mean, just as a
I think,
bullet, just as a bullet point thing.
yeah, I think certainly your excursion to Rollrights.
Correct.
People do need to know about that. And I think they might be interested to know because you did a little film of your car
Yes,
and your roadworthiness of the car. I
I
think
did.
you could fill people in on how that's gone,
Yeah.
and then we do want to talk a bit about this latest bit of megalithic news. That
Mm.
it's news thinking is that all our megalithic culture actually started in France, northern France, and migrated up.
Yep. Nice
Uh,
one. That.
I, it's a nice subject to talk about. I think we might have some arguments about that.
Hey, hey, hey.
Um,
Patrick Henderson. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, Patrick.
Yeah. Who else
Uh,
apart from Margaret and Patrick are there? I can tell there's more than just you. Give us a nod. Give us a thumbs up. Say hello. Sorry,
um,
Rupert.
no, that's all right. I'm just trying to think what else we can natter about there. We were going to talk about when we might be doing the photography special because people
Oh,
do keep
Patrick.
asking
Patrick
us about
Ford's
that.
here. Hello, Patrick.
Hello,
I
Patrick
might be.
Ford.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Patrick coming over because
Yeah,
Patrick's in the US, of course, and he'll be coming over in May. More of that anon. So glad to see you there, Patrick.
yeah.
Um, Sorry. Yes, Rupert. You were saying.
Yeah, so I was just trying to think. We keep being asked about the photography special. When are we going to do that?
Yeah.
Uh, so that's something we can natter about. Uh,
And we've got a calendar coming up this year. Or there's one or two events that well, there's two events that we're doing. That's the down in France,
yes,
down near you, and the UK tour thing
yes, the big
that we
adventure.
need to mention. Also, something that we never mention, and we really should do. We should have been mentioning for the last 11 months is that on every podcast we do, we award a Stonehead of the Month. And we've not been broadcasting that apart from in the actual podcast itself.
Yeah,
So I think it'd be fine time and high time that we actually let people know who they are. Some people knew at the time, but unless you've listened to the
yeah.
podcast, you won't be aware. Joby, hello there, welcome. It's not a name I recognise. Joby R.J. Wheatley. Thank you for being
Hello,
with us.
Joey.
That's great. Yeah. Um,
And
I
welcome.
tell you what, Rupert, do you want to sign out of Skype and come back in again? Because your signal, just in the hope that we can
Is it
get
really
your
back?
signal back, it's very blocky and very jerky,
That's
and the sound
interesting.
is breaking up.
Everything's looking really crisp at my end. Okay, I
Yeah,
will.
sorry.
No, that's all right. I will be back in about less than a minute.
All
Bye.
righty, all righty. So, in the meantime, what can I talk about? Oh, the thing that's fresh in my mind is that yesterday I spent most of the day at the Rollright Stones in Oxfordshire. The purpose of which was to pick up extra B-roll shots to fill in the gaps. That there are gaps in the little film that we're making about. Here he is, back again. A little film that we're making, Rupert and I making about the Rollright Stones, and should be with you in a matter of weeks. So we've been promising that for ages. Hello, Janice. Janice Belcher-Heath says hi.
Hello, Janice.
Very good indeed. That is a bit better, Rupert. Glad to have you back. I was just filling in about yesterday. Ask me about yesterday.
Tell me about yesterday.
Me, I was at the Rollright Stones.
Sorry. I know you were. Yes, tell everybody about the Rollright Stones because it's really exciting, actually. For those of you that don't know, I think you probably all know, I'm down in the south of France, and so sometimes it's very frustrating when I know that Mike's camping out somewhere for a dawn shoot, and I any excuse to be under canvas. I know you weren't under canvas. That's not the point, but any excuse to be outdoors and waking up outdoors for me is just bliss. So I was going to bed particularly jealous of the fact that you were camping out under the stars.
There were stars. They were very beautiful too. There's a good night sky place up there, actually, near the Rollrights. Chris Brooks says a very good evening to you, gents.
Hello, Chris.
Thank you very much, Chris. Nice to see you. I said about Janice, didn't I? Yeah. And Joby, I'm just putting their greetings up on the screen momentarily. Sorry, carry on, Rupert.
No, it's all right. I was just saying, and also very nice that you got morning mist. I mean, Rollright Stones. What better can you possibly ask for than morning mists?
Yes, it's what I was hoping for, but it's the light as well, particularly. I was just saying to folks, the idea is to get extra footage, B-roll, pretties, and stuff to complete our film.
Well, for people who follow us and are maybe not necessarily familiar with filmmaking, you should probably define B-roll.
Oh yes,
because we don't have B-rolls anymore, A-rolls and B-rolls, do we? It's just a terminology.
Really, it's just a terminology that's got applied. Yeah, B-roll. It's a term.
It's like we still talk about footage, don't we?
Yeah, it's an old-fashioned term which does literally apply to reels or rolls of film. A-roll was the principal shooting, upon which you shot your actors and dialogue and all that kind of thing. B-roll is the scenery stuff, where you can send a second unit out to grab stuff or cutaways and that sort of thing that don't involve talking to camera. And the same thing applies when you're making documentary. You do need pretties, scenery shot, just pure scenery shots. The odd drone shot
don't
now.
Get that with this presenter.
Yeah. And stuff to, illustrate what is being talked about. That's it. So, B-roll, anything you can get that doesn't have somebody speaking to camera in it. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yay. So I was there. Now, before I set off on this, please, guys, if there's a burning question you have about anything to do with Standing with Stones, the page, or what have you, just don't just listen to us. Feel absolutely free to butt in and make a comment.
If we're being
or
boring,
ask a
don't worry about changing the subject.
Oh yeah, that as well. So with that in mind, I don't know. Some of you will have seen it, but I made a little film about going to get a bit of kit for my car, which is a sort of large people carrier type thing, a Citroen Berlingo, and you can get a bit of kit that fits in the back, in the boot, sits in the back, but unfolds to make a bed. You can get them in singles and in doubles. I've just got a single for myself, but it also has a little compartment that slides out at the back with the cooker in it and storage for food and utensils and stuff like that. And it's all very very jolly. So I was trying that out for the first time. To be there at sunrise, at dawn, to get those kinds of shots, and that entailed camping in the car. So that's what I was doing. I was in the dark.
Thank God you didn't oversleep.
I did a little bit, actually. because I hadn't had that good a night's sleep. But that's another story. I don't think we should go there.
Well, no, maybe not.
Another time. No, but the van itself performed very well. Jennifer Harrison says, "Sorry, I can't watch. My phone won't open the app. Oh no. Disaster. Okay. Well, you will be able to watch the recording, but I'm sorry, you can't watch and partake at the same time.
Yeah,
Jennifer.
reboot your phone.
Yeah. But Jennifer, thanks for all your support and everything. Much appreciated. So what was I saying? Rollright Stones. So that's about it, really. I don't think there's anything more to say on that front. I'll put a link to the film if you haven't seen it, about me collecting the stuff. It's quite fun. Yay! Next.
Yes. And it'll be lovely to see the final film.
Yeah, I posted a photograph today from, this is just a still from one of my drone shots on Instagram and on Facebook of the whispering nights in the morning light and mist. So that was very jolly. Okay, so Rollrights, what would you like to natter about next in the absence of being asked a question by our
in the absence of being asked a question? Well, I'll tell you what, I think that we should leave the Stonehead of the Month peoples until later on, just in case.
Do you? Okay.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Just in case they tag along during the course of the evening.
That's a fair idea. Yeah.
Well, we were going to talk about the latest thing about megaliths kicking off in northern France, weren't we?
I'll tell you what people were commenting a lot and liking a lot was I shared an item. I can't remember. No, did I share it or did somebody else share it? God, what's happened to my brain? The Armenian stone rose. Who was that?
Yes. Now that was I can't open the page in front of me while I'm talking to you on Skype. Yeah.
Just one moment while I answer Steve. Steve, Jill asks, "What's our Instagram address to follow?" It's Stones Talk. It's at Stones Talk, one word. Where shall I put that? Can I? Oh, I can do it myself, can't I? Stones Talk. There we go.
Yes, the Armenian stone rose. Well, in actual fact, the Armenian stone rose, that's one of the reasons why I'd quite happily argue about the northern France thing.
Because the Armenian rose are old, aren't they?
The Armenian rose, well...
And other stuff there.
Well, there is a wealth of... So, I mean, Armenia, if you think where it's placed, so you're talking about east of Turkey, and if you look at the archaeology that we know about, and the age of the archaeology that we know about from Turkey particularly, where there are sites that go back just ridiculous thousands of years. Now, these sites in Armenia are known to be 7,500 years old, and the stuff that they're talking about kicking off in France is the oldest, as far as I'm aware, is 7,000 years old. So you've got stuff further east that predates what we know about in northern France by half a millennia.
Yeah.
Millennium. And then we also know that there are sites, okay, granted not megalithic, but there are sites associated with megalithic sites in Ireland that are 9,000 years old. So,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
there's a whole kind of. I think it's another case where people are getting something newsworthy and kind of sticking a flag in the ground, when in
Yeah,
actual fact, it should very much still be open to question, not statement.
yeah,
That's my view.
yeah. Okay,
Um,
we sort of got onto the the megalithic spread thing, but I'm just showing photographs now of
okay.
the stone rose, triple stone rose,
Yeah, I mean
which
that.
at first glance I thought, oh, somebody's been up Merivale. But no, I don't remember
But
seeing triple rose
there are
stone
no
rose
triple rows
on
in Merivale. No.
on
But
Dartmoor.
the interesting thing is that those photographs that were posted today,
I
what's the
posted
name?
them. I posted them, but they originally came from Nicholas Kropacek,
Nicholas
who
Kropacek.
I
Now,
don't think is
Nicholas,
on. It's not a name I recognise from the Facebook community, but he posted it in the Prehistoric Explorers Club.
right. Now the
Let's
thing is that
bring our pretty pictures back. There
those
we go.
what's the name of that complex? It begins with H. Hurrah, hurrah. Is it? What's the name of that complex? Because the thing
I will
is,
tell you in a moment when I learn
yeah,
how to
because the archaeology
get
in
rid of this.
Armenia as a whole, there's a circle, a very big circle. It's a bit of a messy circle, it has to be said, but nevertheless, it is a a circle complex in Armenia called Karahunj, I think it's
Ah,
called.
you see,
Um,
this is why I asked you. This is why I mentioned it, because I knew you had a little bit more to say specifically about Armenia, which which I'm ignorant of. So
well, the thing is, they're known to have astronomical alignments.
ah,
There are holes in the stones that do form stellar alignments.
how
Um,
come we didn't mention this when we were doing archaeoastronomy? That would have been good. Anyway, moving on.
do you know? I
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's terrible.
Oh, yeah. I thought of
Well,
many
do you
things.
know what? I did something that we probably haven't talked about at all, actually, publicly. But after we did Standing with Stones, uh, I immediately started researching for the next book, and then hopefully what would become
Oh, yeah.
our next film.
Absolutely.
And it was, well, there were actually two options. One was going to be global megaliths, and the other was going to be, well, in fact there were three. There were global megaliths, then there was Standing with Stones Europe, and then there was another one that was transatlantic stuff that my publishers thought was way too contentious. But in the course of researching those, I started looking all over the place for correlations of megalith culture, and it is
Yeah.
astonishing how far afield you find the same designs, and I think whilst some people say, oh, they were independently, it was a completely independent design, it's like convergent evolution, and I say nonsense, absolute nonsense. There is a dolmen, for example, there is a dolmen in Korea, um, South Korea, that uh, barring the hole in one side
Do
of it,
excuse me, I'm just answering a question
do you
on
don't mind
Facebook.
me?
Yeah, yeah.
Barring a hole in one side of it, if I just showed you a photograph of it and you were familiar with Ireland, you would be convinced that you were looking at Poulnabrone. Um,
Oh, really?
it's yeah, it's just one of those things where there was a shared culture wherever it started. We don't know, um, but it's clearly a shared culture that's spread from wherever its source point actually turns out to be. So why am I even saying this? Oh no, that's just because you said that I knew more about it. It's because I spent a lot of time researching about it for our sequel, which we will yet do.
Yeah.
It just couldn't happen back then. Um, but it's it's remarkable, actually, if you go all the way around the world, how this megalithic, the similarities of megalithic culture,
Yeah.
for me, show that it was a shared culture and not things arising independently. The designs are too similar.
So yeah,
And
I didn't want to go off on too much of a journey with those, but
yeah,
we're sort of, our point of gravity seems to be coming back to the spread of, the general
yeah,
spread of megalithic culture
yeah,
thing that has come up.
yes.
Steve, a question from Steve. Steve Gill. Digressing. Not too
Yes.
far, I hope, Steve. Is the first Standing with Stones series still available online so I can share it with my Druid group? I'm still trying to find a copy of the book. Ooh.
Okay. I can tell you that the book is currently out of print in Britain. They're talking about reprinting it. They haven't got their asses together. You can still get it from America if you go on to Amazon.com, because Thames and Hudson, New York, still have it in print. So if you go onto Amazon.com, you'll be able to get a copy.
Yeah.
But film-wise, well, yeah, it's on the website.
Well, the Standing with Stones was never a series. It may appear like that on internet, because after the event, when it became viable to do so, I split it up into 7 parts. It's been broadcast by it used to be called the
It was the
community channel. It's called something else now.
Together TV.
I can't remember, but it's all over YouTube. If you put a thing for Standing with Stones in, it's divided into 7 parts: West Country, Southern England, Wales, Ireland, Isle of Man, and Northern England, Scotland, and the Scottish Isles. Is that 7? Did I do 7 there? Did I miss something
Indeed.
out?
No.
But it all used to be. It was originally released as one, 2.25-hour film. On DVD. If you can find one of those, then you're a lucky person.
Yes,
on
because
DVD.
we
The
our
DVD, I have to
stock-
say, is a beautiful thing. I was very the menu system particularly was just a work of genius.
Do you know, and I will say, for those of you that don't know, we had the film premiere of that was in Chipping Norton, and Chris Brooks, who is with us
Of course.
right now. Chris was there.
Yeah.
In fact, that was when we first met Chris. It wasn't the first time we'd communicated with him, but that was the first time we met.
Anyway, hope that answers. Sorry, Rupert. Hope that answers your question, Steve. Joby asks, do we know the ages of the Irish/South Korean stones?
Okay, now be careful here, because Mike will tell me I'm going off on one.
Well, he's asked you a question.
Yeah. Well, the Irish ones, you see, it's so contentious, because the dating of the Irish sites, particularly this is around Carramore, which is in County Sligo. Oh dear. And very contentious, because there is dating not necessarily of stones themselves, it's just in a densely populated megalithic area, if you like. So
yeah, and you have to go there. It is mental how densely
it
populated
is totally
it is with stuff. Yeah.
But there is dating associated with those sites that goes back 10,000 years. Now,
dating of what do we know?
Well, there are burials.
Artifacts or burials, yeah, and or
burials.
Both. Yeah.
And so it is quite possible, in exactly the same way as we still do now. We'll build a church on top of where it used to be a megalithic site. So it is quite possible that the associated megalithic sites were just put on somewhere that used to be just a burial site. It's quite possible. But nevertheless, there are burials associated with these sites that go back 10,000 years. Now, the inference from that, depending on how you want to interpret it, the inference could be that the megalithic culture actually started in Ireland and migrated away from there. Now, when I suggested this, now
Oh,
Tim
yes.
Darville, for those of you that don't know, Professor Tim Darville is a vastly respected archaeologist who was kind enough to, he wrote the foreword for the book Stone in the Stones, and was very supportive all along, and helped me in the editing of the book. He read everything that I wrote to make sure that I wasn't talking nonsense. And when I suggested this, Tim, because he's an academic archaeologist, so you don't waver off the party line, and Tim was just fiercely refusing to accept that. People don't seriously think that. So not wanting to offend him, I thought this isn't what makes the book, So we'll just take that bit out then. There's no need to be contentious, but nevertheless, it is a possibility. So now, if you're now asking the question, the dating of the Irish stones.
And Rupert has left the building, I do believe. Skype is trying to reconnect. If anybody doesn't know what we're talking about as far as the Sligo, the Carramore Cemetery is concerned, it's well worth a visit. If you're in Ireland, like I say, the density of megalithic monument of dolmens and tombs and so on and so forth is just an extraordinary thing to see. I'll have to wait until Rupert gets back to talk about South Korean stones, I'm afraid. Thank you, Patrick. Patrick Ford says the DVD package is spectacular. Hold on a second. Apparently I've missed a call from Rupert. Let's see if that works. Oh, no, that's turned off my thing. Bear with me a moment, callers. Apparently I'm still on a call with him. Okay. So I will sign out and see if we can raise him again. There we go. Yes, hooray!
I tried calling you back twice.
I know. I didn't get the Skype call sign, so I was unaware of it. I was wittering anyway.
Okay, jolly good. So long as it was actually coming through.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
Anyway, you were segueing from Ireland to South Korea.
I was going to
which is
Korea,
quite a feat.
and yes, it was a shocking time to get cut off.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about the Korean sites is that they appear to be Bronze Age. Now, that is so ridiculously young in comparison with the Irish sites that just flags up all manner of other questions, because previously the thinking was that all these things, I mean, we'll take as our kind of our flagship ancient site, Göbekli Tepe, because we know that its roots are 12,000 years old. And the thinking was that the most ancient sites developed over there and migrated, and then just, whatever aspects of megalithic culture then spread from maybe from there. But then you find that actually they've spread from somewhere else, and we don't know where, because it actually goes age-wise. It goes well, they're younger in the east. They seem to be younger in the east than they are in the west. So I'm talking about, if you take Turkey as the oldest stuff, it's the oldest stuff we know about, and it gets younger as you go east. Now, that's it is interesting. It is interesting because until there's a sort of global get together of archaeologists to say, let's actually just cherry pick some sites, in every country and actually bother to date them properly.
Yes, please.
Because that would really set the cat amongst the pigeons, because there are so many assumptions made globally just because of the way things are. We were talking about this last time and on one of the podcasts as well, that there are so many suppositions because a site looks like this site. We know this site is this age, therefore we'll say that this is this age. Well, how do we know? The Pontypridd rocking stone is modern.
And the recumbent latest recumbent stone circle in Aberdeenshire is 20 years old. So
20 years old, and everybody thought that it was a newly discovered Neolithic recumbent.
Yeah.
No.
But you see this. But I'm glad, because this the fact that this paper, this new piece of research, is all over the internet. There's a piece in the Daily Mail, which got it a bit wrong, to say the least. But it's timely, if you'll forgive the pun, because it's the thing that we discovered in this last year since we resurfaced again doing this, is what the point you've just made. That the dates are not secure as far as stone, as far as the megaliths, as far as the monuments themselves are concerned. And to have something at least that has value in marking a chronological spread from one place to other places is very valuable at this point in time, helping us help you understand the story. So that's a good thing. So anyway, I hope, Joby, that in part answers your question, and thank you for it. Please, folks, keep those questions coming. Anything at all. Did I say Patrick Ford? Thank you, Patrick. He said the DVD package is spectacular and a must-see. I watch it often. Never get tired of all that's there, especially the opening scene blooper.
Oh, God.
By which I presume you mean Rupert Soskin not even be able to light a match.
I'll say in my defence. Do you know what? I won't say anything in my defence.
You're welcome, Joby. You're welcome. So, should we talk about Stonehead of the Month?
Yeah, go on then.
Well, I presume that most of you probably listened to the podcast, in which case you're aware that every month we award a Stonehead of the Month for some person that has attracted our attention by acts of daring do, or particular attention to detail, or just sheer enthusiasm sometimes.
Yeah.
And lately, photography's played a big part in our choices. But it's been very remiss of us because we've not really mentioned them outside the podcasting. I think it was the first thing we do when advertising the podcast, to be able to say, and Stonehead of the Month is, on Facebook, wherever. And we haven't been doing that at all. So half of you probably aren't aware that you made it into, we're afforded such an accolade.
It's quite,
and we've been going the podcast. What we're at, we've just published number 11. We've just Kieran, hello there. Kieran Burns says, "Oh, hi there." Smiley. So, have you got a list, or have I? No, I know I've got a list of.
You've got a list. I can reel off quite a few, I guess.
Yeah. But let's start with podcast. The Stonehead of the Month. The very first one was a guy called Lee Price, and he got the award of Stonehead of the Month for activities beyond the call of duty on Dartmoor. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely correct.
Oh, and being a mega fan of of Standing with Stones as well. Yeah. I think that was a trick. Do you have any more information than that?
What about Lee?
Yeah.
Well, it was actually his partner, and I'm really sorry, I don't off the top of my head remember her name, but Lee's partner contacted us on the quiet, saying that Lee was a massive fan of Standing with Stones, and that it would absolutely make his day, or it was his birthday coming up, and it would absolutely make his birthday if we could send him a signed something or other.
Oh, that's right. So
and
we did that.
So we did that,
and made his day.
We thought that because it was our first podcast coming out, and we'd been, talking about the different things that we can do to add to the richness of the podcast. So we came up with the Stonehead of the Month idea, and the thing is that Lee, it's almost like every spare minute he and his girlfriend are stomping across the moors and photographing all the megalithic sites that they visit, and he had a wealth of photographs that he had posted on Instagram, so it was a well-deserved Stonehead. And
if you're watching, Lee, I hope, or if you're watching this at a later date, I hope we made your day.
We salute you. Yes.
Podcast number 2, Stonehead of the Month, was Mo Keown.
It was Mo Keown, yes. And Mo is a very big
fan of ours. I think Mo got it because of her ultra enthusiasm for being such a great supporter and fan of ours from day one.
Yeah.
So you that's the way to become Stonehead of the Month, Just love us and send us stuff.
We're a sucker for the love.
Another way would be to become a mega patron on Patreon, of course.
Yeah, that helps us. It helps.
Maybe we should just do that. So thank you, Mo. Mo knows she was Stonehead of the Month. We know that.
Yes,
Jeff Watson was the next one.
Jeff Watson.
Jeff knows he was a Stonehead of the Month.
Yes, he does.
We know that.
For those of you that don't know Jeff, if you go into the community and just look up Jeff Watson and have a look at his flint napping. Oh my God, the stuff that he makes. Stunning, absolutely stunning work. And it's all labour of love. It's not like it's his job. But it's genuinely beautiful. And it's, for me, I love it when you've got people today who are still hugely skilled at those ancient crafts. And Jeff takes the biscuit. His work is beautiful. I do recommend that you look him up and have a look at some of his photographs of stuff that he's done. Do you know what? At some point, I will buy from him. I will commission him to make me a flint knife. There's one in particular that he put a photograph up of, and it's one of those want one. So yeah, hats off to Jeff.
Absolutely. Next, number 4 actually was a triumvirate. It was a triple award for Toby Angel, Tim Ashton, and Martin Fildes, who together, Tim is not actually a company member of Sacred Stones, but they had invited me up to the building of a new long barrow in Shropshire. And the award really was for innovation in the field of modern interment practices, basically. They are building modern long barrows as an alternative funerary practice. And it's a commercial venture, but it's not that expensive compared to other funerary practices in this country, and as an spectacular alternative. These are fantastic long barrows and barrows. There are 2 already in operation, one in Cambridgeshire, one in Shropshire. I'm just going to switch to the screen over there. I've got their website up. Sacred Stones. So, pop over to sacredstones.co.uk if you're interested in that. Don't want to dwell on being an advertisement for them, but they're good eggs. Heart is very much in the right place as far as the use of an old idea in a modern context. And their feedback has been very telling about people's fundamental relationship with earth and death and the dead and the living and all that kind of stuff that we look at when we're looking at Neolithic and Bronze Age burial practices from all this time.
And I really do think that it's lovely to have something that is so meaningful, for want of a better word, for people who aren't members of any orthodox religion.
Oh, sorry. Joby Weekly has just said he's foreman mason on the Barrow. Ta-da! So he works with Martin.
Joby.
Yeah.
Good.
So good man. We'd like to talk and hear more anon about that.
Definitely.
So didn't like that. Didn't. Just pressing like and liked and unliked at the same time, and it's confusing my language. So I had no idea about that at all, Joby. Welcome and thank you. Yay. As I say, didn't want to dwell too much because we need to move on to next. Who was next?
Was that Angel?
Anthony Murphy.
Oh, Anthony.
What could we do?
Yeah, what could we do?
What could we do? Anthony, of course, at that time, which it must have been January or December, he had just made the huge discoveries at Brunaboyne of those complexes near to Newgrange.
Yes. In fairness, he hadn't discovered them in January.
Had he not? Was it January?
No. Well, that's what you just said.
Was it? I'm confused now.
Okay. Well, let's forget you said January, because it was because of the drought that these things showed up in crop markets.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, I'm getting well confused.
Yeah, it was. That was why they showed up, and it just happened that Anthony had been out with his drone, and
it just happened to be. I mean, he does
just
do it,
to be.
with
So
purpose.
I think when anybody says, so when we say just happened to be, that's like us saying that just Lee Price just happened to be in the middle of Dartmoor. You've got to put the effort in, obviously. And Anthony does go out, a lot, doing this a lot. And
you wouldn't believe actually what Anthony gets up to, apart from being running the Mythical Island website, writing books, writing novels. He's also lead member of he plays not tuba, it's the
it's not the sousaphone.
No, it's the other one. In his local brass band, in the Drogheda brass band.
We glibly asked Anthony when he came
the
on.
The euphonium, isn't it the euphonium?
Euphonium, well done.
He plays the euphonium in the
we
Drogheda
asked him, what does he do in his spare time? He doesn't have any spare time. I don't even know he has time to sleep.
And he's a flipping radio ham.
Yes, he is.
And he edits a magazine for farmers. Yeah. Anyway,
he needs to get
and he writes books and all that, and he's a thoroughly good egg. So Anthony Murphy was the next one. And then we've got another mega award here. This is sort of Andy Burnham, lifetime Stonehead. Yeah. Stonehead of the year, Stonehead of the decade.
Yes. Andy is truly extraordinary, actually.
And we awarded him that, of course, on release of the this.
Have you got a hand? Because if you haven't, I'll grab my copy. You do.
Which, if you don't already have a copy, it's not, just a gazetteer, but it's beautifully laid out with maps and articles and as it it says a field guide to the megalithic sites of Britain and Ireland. I can't remember how. So there's over 1,000 sites in here. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
A
It's
lot
an
of work.
astonishing piece of work. Yeah.
So he had to be Stonehead of the month.
Yeah.
Whatever month that was, I've lost count.
Not least of all, for the website that he.
Flipping heck, yes.
I'm in awe actually of the amount of time that Andy puts into keeping people up to date. Yes, that was a well-deserved. I can't think of them. They're all well-deserved.
Margaret Bailey's just asked a question, and we'll park it for the moment.
Okay.
But it's a good discussion. She says, I'll just plonk it up momentarily. She said, I just wondered, what did you make of the milk tolerance idea? See,
Okay.
I told you.
Okay. Like that, yes.
I hope you forgive us if we park that for a moment, because that could be a 2-hour discussion, couldn't it?
Yes.
Nice one, Margaret. Thank you. But we'll come back to that. Angel Keown.
Yeah.
Was our next one.
Angel.
Daughter of Mo.
Yes. Angel, daughter of Mo. Now, Angel, I think she's 10. Is she 10? Yeah. Angel, see, Mo, what a good mum. She takes her daughter around all these megalithic sites. And we got a message from Angel via Mo saying, would it be all right if she wrote about us in her school project that she had to do about the project was actually about Avebury and
Graves.
But she wanted to talk about Standing with Stones in that as well. So of course we said yes. And then her project was so well received that the school kept hold of it for a bit, didn't they, and put it on display?
Yeah,
something like that. So Angel, our youngest ever Stonehead of the month. I must admit I felt slightly uncomfortable calling a 10-year-old a Stonehead of any description. But,
that's another matter.
But that was in good heart and and well understood. But Angel, I love it. I think if you can inspire a child, it's the best thing you can ever do. No question. Best thing you can ever do, inspire a child. Yeah. I mean, so we were thrilled that Angel wanted to mention it.
I don't think I'd be sitting here now if it hadn't been for a visit to the Rollright Stones when I was 8 years old.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Yes.
Next one was Frank Laumann. Frank, I think, hails from Germany.
He's German. Yeah. Frank's photography is beautiful.
Yeah, extraordinary.
Again, in the community, look him up, have a look at his photographs. They're lovely, 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 lovely. And I know that loads of you actually do lovely photographs. And again, I'm thinking, Chris, I'm mentioning you a lot tonight. Chris also does some beautiful photography. He's so far slipped through the net.
How's that then?
But no, have a look at Frank's photography. It's
I think Frank's photography was so good. There was kind of sparked a conversation about megalithic photography in general, and I thought that we might do a special about improving or getting great results from your.
Well, we did get asked questions, didn't we, about, and in some ways, it's an irony because there's nothing specific about photographing megaliths. It's just the point is that you can make photography generally that will help people in that regard. But no, Frank, I think Frank is actually I think he is a photographer.
Yeah. Yes, he doesn't specifically. He's not a specifically a megalithic photographer, but he includes it in his. He includes them in his oeuvre.
Indeed. So. Yeah, he does.
What do I include in my oeuvre?
Yeah.
Such a good word. Mark English.
Hello, Mark. Yes.
No, he's not here. He was our
No,
next.
but he was our next Stonehead. Yes.
Stonehead.
I actually forget what was it specifically that flagged Mark up. Oh, it was because he'd been making films.
Yeah.
He'd been making films of a lot of the places that he'd been to, and posting those in the community.
And Mark has always been a great supporter of Standing with Stones. Another one as well. Thoroughly good egg, and always there, always been supportive.
And also, it's that that thing of it doesn't take 5 minutes. It's a significant
not for
job
you, mate, but
I mean, it's not a 5-minute job. To make films and put them up, it's a chunk of work, and so for anybody who's doing that with any degree of regularity,
it is a lot of work.
Credit for that.
Yeah.
Yes, and we like seeing them too. So again, thanks, Mark.
Yeah, Martin Morrison.
Martin. Yeah.
Again, a photography award, really, from the Scottish Isles, I think, particularly. So just goes to show that we've been paying attention more to the community and what leaps out at us from the community from choosing Stonehead of the month. Martin, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, a couple of things really. One was that Martin's what made us notice him more that month was that Martin had posted a lot of photographs of rock art.
Oh, that's correct. That's right. Yeah.
From around the Scottish Isles, and it was something that nobody else had really been doing. I mean,
actually, Martin, are you there? I think you made it, didn't you? Did you make it onto the show? Say hello if you did, because we're talking about you, and you probably never knew that you were Stonehead of the month. Say hello if you're still watching. I hope you made it through. All right. Yay! I was trying to find a photograph or two to flag her. I'm sorry, I interrupted you again.
No. I was just saying that because it's one of those things that nobody else had really done that. I mean, we've got a few fans who. I mean, I know those of you that don't know him.
Yeah.
Brian
Yes,
Kerr.
Martin is here. Martin is here.
Oh, hello, Martin.
Yeah.
Well, how wonderful.
Congratulations, you were Stonehead of the month in the merry month of January.
And we love what you've been putting up. But I was just trying to think, apart from Martin, there are people like Brian Kerr, who some of you might know his work. He's been a follower of ours for a long time, since not long, in fact, probably since the film came out. And Brian's done a lot of rock art photography that's been published all over the place. But not many people actually focus on that aspect of megalithic culture. So when Martin was putting all his stuff up from the Scottish Isles, it was just lovely to see it, really. Because don't see it often enough.
So, and continuing a kind of photographic theme, our latest Stonehead of the month is John H. Barbour. Or rather, his dog Phoebe was. Yeah. If you're regularly on the Standing with Stones community, you can't help but have noticed a stream of photographs, all wonderful and charming, from the Scottish borders mainly, I think.
Actually, he did actually say where he's from, and I don't remember.
No, I don't either. But of course, what stands out about John's photographs are, the remarkable clarity and straight-onness of them. But the fact that most of them include Phoebe in them give a wonderful sense of scale to them, and bring alive shots of otherwise what could be quite boring lumps of stone. Give a sense of scale and presence to them that is otherwise missing, and validates the photograph tremendously.
I could have sworn you just said boring.
I said what?
Boring.
Boring what? Boring stones. Oh, sorry, boring. Oh!
Yeah.
Do the decent thing.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Martin Morrison says, thanks for the nomination. I did not know I had been nominated. Not only nominated, but awarded, dear chap.
Awarded.
Yes. I was up in Kilmartin recently doing a lot of photography and filming. Well, what a great place to be.
Well, we look forward to some
Achnabrek and Cairnban, and the Glen, of course.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's lovely.
Very special stuff to photograph up there.
Yes, absolutely.
We look forward to seeing some.
We do. Did you go to Templewood?
I don't know why we're waiting for a answer, but I'm sure we've gone to Templewood. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it. I thought that turned into quite a marathon, just mentioning our Stoneheads there. But I'm glad we got that out. It's not a sort of hidden secret. I'll put a post with all the names and links in, so we're up to date. And we promise next time we do, next month, which will be number 12, podcast number 12, we will say who is Stonehead of the month and why out there in the community and elsewhere.
Yeah.
All right. So, talking of podcasts, what's the next one going to be about?
The next one is our 12th. We're a year old. And we're kicking off our second year by we're actually starting a bit of a series, and the main subject of the first one of the new year, if you like, is Dartmoor. And what we're going to do is we're going to, not for the whole year, but for a few months, we will pick some areas that are particularly rich in megalithic monuments, and we'll talk about our favourites, or the ones that we think are particularly important, ones that we think that it's really worthwhile, putting the effort to get out into the middle of nowhere to go and find some of these places, because some of them, if you haven't put your boots on and gone walking however far from a car park.
Rupert, I'm going to kick you off, mate, because your internet is deteriorating horribly, so
okay.
If I kick you off,
can you still hear me though?
Yeah, but it's very broken up. It's a bit.
No, okay. But I'm just saying. Okay, so just so long as you know, I know. I'm going to reboot my Wi-Fi because I do live in rural, muddy place, and so I'll be back with you in a minute.
I will talk to the nice people on my own for a moment.
I will be back.
Bye-bye. So just me now. Actually, what I was, we'll come back to what Rupert was saying about upcoming podcasts and plans for that. By the way, Martin Morrison says Kilmartin videos coming soon. I'll really look forward to those. Thanks, Martin. Is that, I decided to put my money where my mouth was this year. And you may have noticed, it came across to my notice that there was a 3-day field archaeology course happening on Orkney on the Cairns Broch dig, which has been happening every summer. So I didn't hang about. I booked myself on. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'll be up in Orkney actually down in South Ronaldsay, not far from the Tomb of the Eagles, for 3 days during the month of June this year. And the idea is, yes, of course, I'll be reporting back to you, but the idea is to get my hands dirty. And if it's one of those things, if you're going to be partly talking about stuff and talking about digging stuff out of the ground, it's a good idea. It's a good idea to have done at least a little bit of it oneself, so you know what you're talking about. Here comes Rupert. Let's see if his internet is improved slightly. I was just talking about my going up to the Cairns Broch to do my 3-day field archaeology course.
Have you shown everybody your trowel?
It's in the van. I have a trowel. Anyway, they've seen it on the community. They've all had a laugh about that, about how I'm a real archaeologist now. Been there, done that.
Do you know what?
You sound a bit quiet, Rupert. I don't know if you sound a bit quiet.
Really?
That's better. Yeah, your microphone. Have your microphone in front of you or something.
Just here, right in front of me.
Yeah.
I can hear myself now. Sorry. I was just going to say it's funny the things that give us pleasure, and I remember how much the Michael was taken out of me when I got my first paleontological, if that's the right word to use, tools. So geologists' hammer and chisels and all those kinds of things that, just the joy of getting them. And then I used to go on digs with the Natural History Museum a very long time ago, and the simple pleasure of of using your tools for the first time out in the field. It's a joy that just. So yes, I do. I completely empathise with your trowel. It's a very fine-looking trowel.
It's one of the best. And so that's June for me, but July, Rupert Soskin and I will be in the same place at the same time down in France. In fact, not 10 miles away from where you live, virtually. Or was it 15? I can't remember.
No, it's not that far at all.
No, it's not, is it?
As the crow flies, it might be, I don't know, 5. It's not
anyway, the point is that Neil MacDonald, he of Megalithic Tours.
Yes, and another member of our community, Neil, lovely face, he's a good friend of mine. Neil he's put together a conference down here.
An Earth Mysteries conference.
Earth Mysteries, yeah. In fact, I'll flag him up. Neil does conferences every year, usually up in Preston, where he lives. But this is the first overseas one, and down here around the corner. So if you're interested, then have a look. We've posted about it in the community, and Neil's posted about it as well. So have a look, because if you do fancy coming down to the sunny south of France in summer,
it will be sunny. I tell you,
it will.
In July, it'll be warm.
Yeah, it'll be lovely. And it's a beautiful part of the world.
It is indeed. Oh, I'm just going to show the folks. There we go. Look, there's a poster. Mysterious Earth Conference. There's Rupert and me. That's a very young photograph of me next to Rupert in the middle there.
Well, were you being vain sending?
I didn't send it.
Oh, okay. Did Neil just?
Neil just sort of must have Googled Michael Bott and came across a youthful image.
Yeah. That's really good. So anyway, if you're interested enough to want to join in come on down to a conference and spend however many days with the likes of us, then it'll be good fun. It will be good fun.
And the link for that is megalithic.tours.com. Hold on, I'll get the full address up for you. So I don't know why I can never get back on these things. Hold on a sec. Here we go. Here's a full link. Copy. Paste. Boom. Let me just put that up there, but that's also in. You'll find that link in the comments next, adjacent to your own comments. So, next up in August, I don't know. I haven't had a reply from Professor Darville yet. I'm hoping to be on a proper full dig.
Yes.
It's no secret that it's called the Sisters Longbarrow, but it is a secret where it is precisely.
Mm-hmm.
It's been quite cagey. I went up there last summer at the invitation. He was already on the dig. But the Sisters Longbarrow is near Cirencester, somewhere near Cirencester. And it's quite an extraordinary dig. There's some very interesting stuff coming out, but I'm not allowed to tell you what it is, even if I could remember. But I'm hoping to join that dig in August.
Yes.
More of that anon. And September, well, that seems to be going ahead, doesn't it?
Yeah, September, very exciting. We were asked, do you know what, I'll brag about this because I'm really proud of it. Back when the film came out, we took second place in the Archaeology Channel Film Awards in Oregon, in America. And Rick Pettigrew, who runs the Archaeology Channel in the States, contacted us last year and said, how about doing a Standing with Stones tour? And so we have spent a lot of time putting together this tour, which is happening in September, and it is going to be epic. We're starting on Orkney and looking at all the wonders that Orkney has to offer. And believe me, Orkney, if you haven't been there, does have wonders to offer. Most extraordinary place. Anyway, from Orkney, we are just working our way down through, frankly, our favourite sites, really, and ending up at Stonehenge with a private thing, sunrise amongst the stones at Stonehenge.
Which is already booked.
Yes, it's all booked. So it's a 2-week tour, and it's just going to be awesome.
Yeah. We don't have a link for that yet, do we? I don't think Patrick has publicised it on the web, but it'll be coming very, very soon.
Yes, it will.
Heads up, it'll be pretty expensive, but it is all apart from flights, it is all inclusive.
Yes.
Coach and hotels, food, entrance fees, whatever.
It's all in. What else can we say about that? Yeah, I mean, it's the main publicity is not far away. We've not long nailed all the hotels. I can't tell you how difficult it has been. Nailing some of the hotels in areas like
it's quite late.
Cumbria first. Cumbria, the Lake District, where because all the hotels are filled with walkers, find a hotel that's where you want it. Oh my God!
Well, it's quite late in the day for booking stuff in 2019.
Well, it took me the best part of a month of faffing around. So 3 weeks just to find the hotels that we could use in the lakes. Madness.
But it's done now. It's done.
It's done.
I tell you what, somebody asked, I can't remember who asked, if we'd included the Isle of Man in the tour. I had to say, I think it did cross our minds. Did it not?
It did.
But all kinds of logistics and added cost problems raised their head.
That is the problem, really.
I tell you what, though, that's not too shabby an idea for you and me to put together. If anybody was interested in doing a tour of going over to the Isle of Man, because it's one of those places less visited, and it's thronged with wonderful places.
It's well, the thing about the Isle of Man is that the megaliths over there are, many of them are quite unique.
Mm.
There are places there that you won't find the like of them anywhere.
Mm.
So yeah, definitely sigh.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Hit the like button if you like the idea of spending time on the Isle of Man with Rupert and I.
But not just the Isle of Man. I think that we've talked about it before, and I think we can talk about it again. There are certain places, not least of all Dartmoor.
Well, it'll be a special podcast, won't it?
It would be a special podcast, yeah. But we could do a tour of Dartmoor because some of the places. And if we do it in the right weather, so we can actually stay out under the stars and
yeah. So, Rupert,
yes,
it is 9:15.
10 here.
Yes, 10:15 there, if you want to be like that. We could go on a journey of local time zones, but we won't do that now. And we haven't even talked about the spread of megalithic culture.
Nor have we gone back to Margaret's question about the lactose.
I tell you what, should we honour Margaret's question?
I think we should.
Yeah.
I think we should. Can
I just contextualise it a little bit, because it was in Margaret's original question was in response to the Beaker culture podcast. And the recent revelations that it was not merely a cultural spread, i.e. Spread of ideas into the British Isles. That's a different story on the continent. Into the British Isles, it was a spread of people. And not only that, but the people that came across, end of Neolithic, beginning of Bronze Age, Copper Age, if you like, had almost completely replaced the indigenous population of Britain within the space of 200 years. So it was massive change over a relatively short period of time. If you bring a fresh, load of, not race, what's the word? A completely fresh culture in, that speaks to a massive change that happened during that time, and one that I hadn't appreciated. And I don't think, we tend to think of the Neolithic sort of blending in to the Bronze Age, but it must have been a colossal change at that time. So
I think it's a problem because largely we don't tend to talk about the people because we have so little to talk about. We talk about the sites. Yeah. And so there's just, for some reason, we've never really brought, when I say we, I mean one has never really brought them together.
So Margaret's question really revolves around why this colossal change in the genetic makeup of Britain. Why did one lot of people disappear and another lot of people predominate? And Margaret wondered if it was to do with not lactose intolerance, but the capability of dealing with.
Do you want to read her question out? Can you access her question? Because I thought she was asking more generally about lactose intolerance.
No, it wasn't. It was. I don't think it applies in this case, but it is a good general question anyway. But that's what sparked it off.
Well, I'll tell you what's really intriguing about lactose intolerance is that we do know from DNA analysis, we do know that 5,000 years ago, we were lactose intolerant. And
when you say we,
indigenous people, this was something that the actual gene for lactose tolerance, I think, and I'd have to look this up because it's not something I keep in my head, but I think that we know from mutation count, if that's the right terminology, that the gene for dealing with lactose actually came from, I think it was Turkey, actually. Did it originate in Turkey?
Oh, you're asking me.
I might be asking myself. And then move west. I think it might be Turkey. But the thing is that what we know is that we have been farming cattle for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Well, we clearly weren't farming them for milk.
Ah.
Because we were lactose intolerant. So that creates a whole other, okay, well, it just gives you a different direction to think. That means that we were using them for the two things have got to be meat and beasts of burden, because we've also, as we were talking about a couple of podcasts ago, that they pushed back the date for cattle being used for their brute force, really, which is quite possibly for dragging vast tree trunks around and stuff like that, or rocks, we don't know. That's something nobody talks about, is it? How did we move all those stones from here to there? Well, maybe we used cows. People come up with all these fancy ideas of rowing rocks around on sledges and all the rest of it. Maybe we dragged them with
beasts of burden.
Beasts of burden.
The bigger the better.
Nobody talks about that. But no, the lactose intolerance thing. As I said, 5,000 years ago, we were lactose intolerant.
Well, Margaret says lactase persistence! Exclamation mark.
Come on, Margaret, you clearly know more than we do.
Yes.
Come on, do you want to flesh that? Do you want to flesh
spot
that
the waffle?
Because if you're going to start talking about lactase as opposed to lactose, then I know that your knowledge of chemistry and biochemistry is way better than mine. I'd have to go and look that up. Now, do you actually store that in your head? Difference between lactase and lactose?
No. Me.
I don't. Come on, help us out, Margaret. We'll big you up.
But anyway, you were saying about lactose intolerance.
A
Binky Beaver gives clapping her hands.
Hello. Binky, good friend of mine.
Yep. Didn't get to your hair today, though.
No, I didn't. I wanted to have a haircut today. It didn't happen. I just get shaggier until I can't cope with it anymore. No, the lactose thing. It is that's the thing that I find most fascinating, is that we, as I said, we clearly were not using cattle for milk that long ago. Which is, we have this thing in our heads of dairy being one of our staples, and especially when you look at some of the recent findings in Turkey. Now, do you remember, was it 8,000 years old, the oldest cheese they found? It was crazy old, 8,000 years. Now, if we know, they actually found some in Egypt as well, which was a similar sort of age. I'd need to go and look it up, but it was a similar sort of age. Now, the thing is that if you've got cheese going back 8,000 years in Turkey, and yet we were lactose intolerant over here, I mean, that again, we don't know specifics. We can't at this moment in time know specifics. But it does nevertheless give you a timeline of human activity, that we know that we were only using cattle for meat and beasts of burden up to that point. And again, suddenly it changed. Now, is that something that relates to the Beagle people, that it's a new...
Can I just say, before you go on,
yes.
Margaret has replied, and she says, it is possible that the earlier farmers could digest cheese or butter. It's the ability to digest liquid milk into adulthood, which is a bit weird and affords the advantage, and is specifically remarked upon by Roman writers. So
Thank
that's
you,
the
Mark.
interesting, really, really interesting point.
Thank you,
Margaret.
Margaret.
Yeah. A little bit of clarity, a bit of light in our befuddled minds there, and that's.
Do
But
you know what?
that's
Do you
huge.
know
I
what?
didn't know there was a distinction between being able to handle dairy product, as it were, and liquid milk.
Well, it's I'm not expecting you to answer to every bit of our wittering, Margaret, but so I'm assuming that that's going to be the difference between lactase and lactose. But I suppose when you make cheese, you're separating out curds and whey and what have you, aren't you? So maybe
Yeah.
we're taking out the things that we find difficult to
Maybe.
digest. Although cheese is still a crap thing for us to, we all eat it, but we.
Oh yes.
But yeah, it's not good.
Maybe we should just do a podcast on this. Do some more research and do a podcast because I fear we might sort of end up waffling and confusing. And,
well, I don't want to do Margaret an injustice on that, so I'm going to go and do some more reading.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting thing though. If you look at the timeline, you know, is it that influx of beaker culture that brought a shift in our dietary bar?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
For
Thank you,
whatever
Margaret.
reason, you know, I just feel, and maybe the lactose thing could be something to do with it. That one method, the incomers into Britain at that time would have brought a different farming method, and it's amazing how quickly things can change if one method works and another ceases to do so.
Do you know what? One thing that is intriguing there is that in Africa, people have been keeping cattle for a very long time, and I'm wondering, you know, because genetically, obviously, the big differences between the people who never migrated out of Africa, so the pure Africans who are still in Africa. I'm wondering, because they've kept cattle and now they drink milk. Well, how long have they been drinking milk? I wonder if that's something that we can actually tell from African DNA.
Blimey. Wow.
That one up as well.
It does, doesn't it?
It's done, yeah.
I think we shall leave that one for the time being, though. Which
Thank you.
leaves untouched.
We'll watch this space. We'll come back on that.
Which leaves untouched our talking about megalithic spread, and we do want to talk about that. Sounds like we should come back and just talk about that on its own one evening, because it could take a long time, and we've been going for 90 minutes now.
Yeah. Well, we did do a podcast on it.
That was before we had this new research, though.
Oh, you mean specifically about the?
Yes. I'm not
French...
thinking about. Others. I'm thinking about the spread from Brittany and the northwest of France.
Okay. Well, if we do a special, am I allowed to bring my grumpy hat?
Oh yeah.
Excellent.
Wouldn't be grouchy hat. Beware the grouchy hat.
I'm going to bring my grouchy hat. Yeah.
So should we leave discussion of that for another time, because we'll be well past the 2-hour mark, which I think is stretching it a bit for people out there. And thank you for bearing with us and staying with us this long. If you've got anything you need to ask us right now, because I can feel us winding up now, if you need to make your presence known, or ask a brief question, or make a comment, speak now or forever hold your peace. We've covered next podcast. As ever, if you've been enjoying what Rupert and I have been up to over the past year and before, if you enjoy the podcast, if you enjoy the films, enjoy the other bits and pieces that have been coming out, enjoy these even, we really thank you, Patrick. Patrick says a pleasure as usual. Bless you.
Thank you, Patrick.
We are supported in doing this by our supporters at patreon.com, by monthly subscription, which can be tiny, can be less than £1 a month.
Make it a Christmas.
And there are 4 levels of subscription you can have. If you really want to push the boat out, you can subscribe for $50 a month. But you don't have to do that. You rich folk can, but the rest of us...
Every little
helps
us enormously. It really does.
Yeah. So do please consider becoming a supporter of Standing with Stones on Patreon. Hop over to patreon.com/standingwithstones, and you'll be presented with and click on there's a red become a patron button. There's several posts. It's a social media page in its own right, the Patreon page. But you'll see a red button that says become a patron. Click on that and you'll find the options that are available to you if you feel compelled to send a bob or two our way. If so, we thank you deeply from it. And those of you out there watching now who are already our Patreon supporters, thank you.
Very much.
Margaret has sent a reply. Cheese is partially digested by the rennet. The advantage of the lactase persistence is the ability to use milk as a source of liquid, calories, and easily assimilatable calcium without slaughtering their animals. Animals can gain water from plants, and the humans can access this water through milk, also blood. Good news all round. Thank you for that, Margaret. This is
Thank you.
Useful stuff. We shall attempt, if you don't mind the pun, to digest that a bit better, and hopefully have another discussion at some other time about the implications of that.
Because it's yes. I mean, without full research, it's difficult to know quite what we can pull out of that. But there's meat in there, if you'll pardon another pun. Yeah, thank you, Margaret.
All right, I'm just posting the Patreon link, and that's it. I think.
Yeah.
Nothing more for us to say right now, except for thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments and questions and helpfulness. I've enjoyed tonight immensely. I hope you have. What about you, Rupert?
I certainly have. Yes. And always just appreciate it so much that you come and join us and like what we do. Thank you very much. No, I don't have anything else to add other than to say that pod number 12 is romping along the way, and we'll be with you a sensible time of the month.
And I will do my very best to get the Rollright Stones film to you as soon as possible. All right. That's it from us. Thanks again. See you again soon.
Take care, folks. Bye.
Bye-bye.